And just real quick, by a show of hands, anybody here a fan of a performer by the name of Usher? Any Usher fans here? By chance? It's okay if you're not. Okay. Any fans of Justin Bieber in the house tonight? Okay. There's the big Bieber fan right there.
Oh no!
Explain. A couple of years ago, Usher did a concert in Los Angeles, and Justin Bieber was the opening act. People booed Bieber. People threw things at Bieber. People hated Bieber. And it got to the point where he had to slink off stage with his stupid little Bieber haircut. And then Usher came on and people were happy. I just wanted to say that I'm very aware that tonight I am Justin Bieber. And y'all are waiting for Usher. So I will try to keep my comments brief. When John Carlos approached me about writing his book, I mean, you couldn't stop me fast enough. I mean, I was like running for the chance to do it. And that's because that image from 1968 with their fists in the air, John Carlos and Tommy Smith, I mean, it tattooed itself on my brain. And I thought, if I did this book with John, it would answer two questions for me which had been swirling around my brain for quite a few years. And both questions are the same word, which is why? Why did John Carlos do what he did, knowing that the price he would pay would be so great? And why do we still care? I mean, look at this crowd tonight, for goodness sakes. They've turned away over 100 people, I heard outside. Why do we still care? And that first question, why did John Carlos do it? I mean, it starts by saying something about the benefits and privileges that are afforded athletes in this country, particularly world-class athletes, as long as they toe the line, play the game, smile, and do things all the right way. I mean, just look at people like Tiger Woods. Well, actually, don't look at Tiger Woods, but as long as you don't do what Tiger Woods did, okay, you hear what I'm saying. Okay. So as long as you do things the right way, things are yours. Now,
let me just say this also, and to show you how God is, I could have put this book out a long time ago, but God made it possible for this book to come out, and if you look at what's happening in society today, it's pretty much parallel to what happened in my day and time in 1968. So it's apropos that this book is out now, and so many people say, I really couldn't see clear as to what happened in 68, but I see it clear as ever today to understand what happened in 68.
And this fellow over here, standing over here, come out so you stand in the shadow. Come out so you can see. There you go. This guy here, his name is Mr. Richard Stebbins. I know you look as young as me, but he's a little older than me. Well, Richard was in the 1964 Olympics, and he was old. Richard probably could have had a career a lot longer. As I watched the TV and watched the 64 Olympics, I saw him run and I said, wow, these guys here is something else. And years later, Richard told me, he said, man, you know, I had a good run in track and field and probably could have had a longer run. He said, but after I saw you run one time, John, I knew my career was getting shorter. I was in trouble. And I just want you to know that, you know, I've always had a bond with this guy, long before I've known him. But after I got a chance to meet him on a one-on-one basis, you know, I feel like Tony Curtis and Spartacus, you know, where a man looking at another man and say, I love you. I love this guy. Thank you. Thank
you. It's wonderful to see John and Tommy finally get their due. It's wonderful. It says a testament to America that you can fulfill your promise no matter how much you try to destroy him. I had a good fortune of running with Bob Hayes, and I always bring this up, and John will tell you about how important Bob Hayes is. Bob Hayes to me is the greatest. Y'all watch ESPN, don't believe it.
Question. How many people here know who Bob Hayes is? Show of hands. She's a generation gap.
Bob Hayes is the greatest athlete of the 20th century, and here's why. He's the only human being to have 2 Olympic gold medals and 2 Super Bowl rings. He transformed sports in America, period. Before sports, before Bob, it was Lombardi and Power in football. After Bob, Dallas Cowboys drafted Bob, and the whole premium in professional sports changed. So myself, John, Tommy, we really all stand on Bob Hayes' shadow. He had a bad break because they set him up and gave him a drug charge. But he's the only human being to win 2 Super Bowl rings and 2 Olympic gold medals. End of story. Why don't y'all know about him? Why don't you know about him? And he and I both stand on Bob's shoulders. So it's not so much about us, but it's wonderful. I had to almost lie my way in here and tell him I was your brother, which I was to get in. But it's beautiful. Do your thing, and anything you want authenticated. I'm a mini historian. Just look over to me and I'll give the yes, no.
Athletes at this time. The most famous athletes were also people who were very political and stood for social issues. People like Bill Russell, greatest winner in history, 11 championships. Jim Brown, arguably the greatest running back in the history of the NFL. Billie Jean King, Arthur Ashe, stood for African American rights, stood for women's rights, and used their hyper-exalted platform as athletes to say something about it. I mean, after 1968, Bill Russell was asked if he had any problem with what John Carlos did on that medal stand, and Bill Russell said, "I have a huge problem with it. My problem is that I didn't think of it first." So that was the mood of the times. And when John Carlos was approached about joining something called the Olympic Project for Human Rights, he jumped at the chance. And I want to say something about the Olympic Project for Human Rights because a lot of people, most people know the moment, the standing on that medal stand. But what they don't know is the movement, the Olympic Project for Human Rights. They had a very simple slogan for themselves. They said, "Why should we have to run in Mexico only to crawl home?" So they called for an African-American boycott of the Olympic Games. They stood on 4 primary demands. One demand was to hire more African-American coaches. Another demand was to disinvite South Africa and Rhodesia from the Olympic Games because they were apartheid countries. A third demand was to fire Avery Brundage as the head of the International Olympic Committee. I mean, Avery Brundage, seriously, like she made Michelle Bachmann look like Barack Obama. I mean, Avery Brundage was out there. And they thought he had no business being in charge of the Olympic Games. And the fourth demand was to restore Muhammad Ali's title. Muhammad Ali had his title stripped in 1968 for refusing to fight for the war in Vietnam, and was facing a 5-year prison sentence at this time. So the boycott was something that was gaining steam. They were actually thought to themselves, if we could have African American athletes not there at the Olympics, what a statement that would be. But then the Olympic Committee, they conceded on one of the demands, and South Africa and Rhodesia were for the first time disinvited from those 68 games. Other folks on that Olympic team said, well, I've worked my whole life for this moment, I'm just not ready to boycott it. So the boycott did fall through. Yet John Carlos and Tommy Smith, they said, you know what, we still have to do something. We can't let this moment pass. So they came up with this idea of what they were going to do on the medal stand. The whole choreography of it, they came up with it before the final race. They said, you know what, when we get on that medal stand, we're not only going to have black gloves on, but we're also not going to wear shoes as a symbol of protesting poverty in Black America. We're going to wear beads to protest lynching and the history of lynching and violence against African American people. We're also, and this is amazing to me, like John Carlos, he came up there with his jacket unzipped as well, as a symbol to all his friends, black and white back home in Harlem, hardworking people who don't get to zip their jackets when they go to work every day. So they had this whole plan for themselves of what they were going to do on the Olympic stand. Of course, there's one thing you have to do before you make that a reality. And what's that? You gotta win. You gotta win. I mean, it's one thing to have a great idea of what to do on the medal stand, but they would have felt pretty stupid holding those beads afterwards like, wow, we came in 5th and 6th.
Thank you, Dr. Carlos, for speaking with us. And go out and get yourself a copy of the John Carlos story, published by Mr. Dr. John Carlos himself.
If you like the book, tweet your friends. Go to Facebook, let your friends know what it's all about. Turn their friends on. And most of all, if you're a young person, turn your kids on to it. Your parents onto it. If you're an older person, be sure and share with your kids. God bless you and thank you for this opportunity.
Stay tuned.